He was once the ice cream man kids flocked to. That doesn't stop the combative defendant from giving our camera the middle finger during a hearing.
Been on a hunger strike for the last month and a half. I'm just trying to get a piece of fruit. I've been out here for over 5 years. Haven't had a piece of fruit.
The ice cream man charged with 2 murders and 4 attempted murders.
Police say a man wearing a black shirt with the word sheriff on it came up, asked where someone was, then started shooting.
Obviously, this guy's dangerous, and we want to get him off the street as quickly as possible.
The defendant, tragically, was a victim himself.
On Thanksgiving Day in 2010, Keetley, who was the neighborhood ice cream truck driver, was out for revenge.
He was seeking revenge on the people he thought were responsible.
2 masked men robbed Keetley of all he had, a couple of bucks, but they didn't just leave.
Just boom, 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 boom.
With blood just pumping out of him, Mike needed help and fast.
He wants this violent gang caught.
They're absolute scum.
He took the law into his own hands, and he took it well beyond that, I think, in this case.
He searched for the term creeper 185 times. Did you know who Creeper was?
Yes.
Did you have a nickname back in 2010?
Yeah.
What was your nickname?
Creep.
That the motive for this case simply is revenge, retaliation. He wanted to shoot the people who shot him.
The mother of 2 of the victims has watched the justice system crawl and stall for nearly a decade.
The jury has not reached a unanimous verdict, period. The jury is hung, period. This is not going to change, period.
Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about Michael Keetley, aka the Ice Cream Man. This case is insane. Michael's actually been in jail for over a decade. He did have 1 trial in that span in 2020, and that was a mistrial, which we're going to talk about. Now he has another trial that's going to be this year. And this case is very polarizing because some people think he did it. Other people think he didn't do it. Some people think he did it, but they don't blame him for doing it. So I want to do what I usually do on my channel, which is I want to give you guys the facts. We'll discuss the theories, and then you can decide for yourself. But first, this video is sponsored by SCENTBIRD. SCENTBIRD is a subscription service where you can get luxury brand name perfumes. They have like over 600 brands, and you get 1 or up to 3 samples per month, and they're large samples. I love their packaging. The bottle is so cute, and you just twist it up like that, twist it back to go in, and as you see, there's a lot of product that you get in here, so much more compared to the little one. Name brand perfumes can be very expensive, like over $100 for a bottle. And so with SCENTBIRD, you only pay $16 per month. If you use my code NOORJ55, you will get 55% off. So instead of $16 for your first month, it's only $7. SCENTBIRD is available in the US and Canada. You always get notes, a little description. So this is the DKNY Be Delicious. Who remembers this? So this is the Get a Room. Ooh, okay. This one is warm, sweet, but not too sweet. This one is like really comforting. I don't know how to say. Confessions of a Rebel is the brand, and it's called Get a Room. What it looks like. I feel like I actually might wanna buy this one. Red apple, mandarin, cypress, liquid vanilla, and clary sage oil. This one I actually do recommend if you like sweet but not too sweet. Thank you so much for sitting through that, and thank you to SCENTBIRD for sponsoring this video. So the whole thing started on January 23rd, 2010, when Michael, who is the defendant in this case, was actually the victim in another case.
The purple ice cream trucks, the driver's seat stained with blood. He's grateful to be alive after being shot 5 times.
I didn't see it coming.
Keetley was driving through this neighborhood when a young woman flagged him down. He thought she wanted a cold treat, but what happened next was chilling.
She was just smiling, happy as everything was fine. Took 2 steps back. Next thing you know, I got a guy with a gun in my face.
Two masked men robbed Keetley of all he had, a couple of bucks, but they didn't just leave.
Just boom, 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 boom. And every time my heart would beat, I just see blood just shooting out.
With blood just pumping out of him, Mike needed help and fast. So somehow he managed to drive down the road and find a family.
Some of Keetley's regular customers helped save his life.
And if they were so brazen to shoot me like this over $12, they're gonna just kill anybody. They don't care now. They don't care.
Although Mike survived the attack, his life was forever changed after that, and for the worse. His right hand was totally messed up.
Up to there. That's about as high as I can get it. They're absolute scum.
He wants this violent gang caught.
Just pick up the phone and call, please.
Hey, these are kind of people that will walk into a convenience store and shoot the clerk.
He had to do so many surgeries, which were very expensive. He had a GoFundMe to fund those surgeries. A day after the attack, he had to have surgery to repair fractured fingers on his left hand and a humerus fracture to his right arm. Now, these injuries to his arms are going to factor in later, so pay attention. March 2nd, he had to undergo bone graft surgery, I can't talk, on his left hand. Then he had to have a bullet removed from his back. June 1st, he underwent surgery on his left hand to release scar tissue that formed from the bone graft surgery. At the end of it, he still had very bad functioning of his right, this is my left, his right hand, and his left hand, although it also had injuries, it was healing, and he was said to be using his left hand more and becoming a bit more capable with his left hand. And he's starting to become really obsessed with bringing his attackers to justice. There was no progress being made in the case. There were no suspects. There were no arrests. Michael came out and even offered a $1,500 reward for any information, but no one in the community was talking, and this was making Michael very upset. It was adding, in his mind, insult to injury. Literally, Michael feels like his life is in shambles. First of all, he's got these permanent injuries. Second of all, he can't work due to the injuries, so he's running out of money. He ends up having to move back into his parents' home, and he's like 40 years old at this time, and he's staying in a hospital bed in the dining room of his parents' house. His mother is having to take care of very basic needs, and you could tell that this pained him. Even when they talked about it in trial, you could see, I don't know if he was acting, but it looked like it pained him.
His mother would have to help him wipe himself after he used the restroom.
Michael begins his own investigation to find out who did this to him. According to police, this investigation was actually more of an obsession. It says, Michael Keetley told a detective that he wished every day that the people who did this would be brought to justice. Michael actually wasn't allowed to have a gun because there was this dispute that he had with a neighbor. So he wasn't allowed to have a gun legally, but he was still able to acquire one through gun shows and private sales. And his ex-girlfriend said that he was purchasing guns and he was watching movies about retribution for an attack such as Death Wish. And Death Wish is basically a movie about this guy. He kills people who attack and rob, and he gets away from police. It's like a vigilante justice movie, essentially. And he becomes obsessed with this idea of finding who did this to him and getting justice himself. In the midst of Michael's revenge spiral, he starts to believe that someone by the name of Creep or Creeper, he believes this person is responsible for his attack, and he starts to obsess. He Googles him obsessively.
He searched for the term creeper 185 times.
Michael decides Creep attacked him, and he finds out where Creep lives, which is on Ocean Mist Court. And Mike also Googled that street name a bunch of times.
Ocean Mist. He searched for that term 92 times.
Now it is Thanksgiving 2010. It's been 10 months since somebody attacked Michael. All of a sudden, on Ocean Mist Court, a dark van pulls up to a home. There's a bunch of people at this house. They're on the patio and they're playing cards, they're talking, they're hanging out. Somebody jumps out of the van. It's a man. He's wearing a t-shirt that says sheriff on it, and he has a long rifle. Asking for someone named Creep, and he's asking for people to show them their ID.
Is he approaching near where in the center of the photograph are the stairs?
Right where you pointing at? He asked, who's Creeper? And we're like, none of us.
Did you know who Creeper was?
Yes, Creeper is a guy he's one of our friends as well. He actually lived across the street, maybe 2 houses down. I kind of wanted to tell him where he lived at and point at him because I could literally see Creeper's house from there, but he wasn't directly looking at me. He was just kind of looking at the crowd, at all of us.
Then what happened?
And he said, excuse me for the language. He had a rifle with him. And he pumped it, he clocked it.
So at first, nobody's listening to this guy. They're looking at each other, but then he pumps the rifle or the pump action shotgun that he has. And this causes them to decide, okay, we're going to listen to this guy. We're going to go down. So in the process of them going down and him asking for ID, a bunch of people get shot.
You know, I'm thinking he's a sheriff, but we all started getting our IDs out. Juan told him, hey man, chill out. And he's like, you chill out. And he shot him right in the chest. Then he pumped it again, he shot him again. I looked over my shoulder and I seen him fall. And then I hear another gunshot. I didn't really get to look too good at the gun. So I didn't see exactly who he shot it at. And then I hear 2 more gunshots. And Richard was looking for his ID on his wallet. The guy came and put the gun on his head, on the back of his head. When Richard felt it, he kind of dug down a little bit. And then the guy shot him. I looked back and I seen him get shot, and all the blood and everything landed on my face. I figured, you know, he ain't no cop, and he's shooting with real bullets. And I tried to turn around to hit him with the bottle because he was right behind me. But he seen me. He turned around and he shot me on my hip. He pumped it again. Every time he was shooting, he was pumping it. And he shot at me, but it missed me, and it went through the window. He pumped it again, and he shot me in my chest. And I started throwing up, like, pieces of blood and, like, meat, because he shot my liver. I guess it was pieces of my liver that I was throwing up.
And so that was the 3rd time you had been shot, is that correct?
Yes.
I remember Richard trying to get his ID out, and I looked at him, and that's when I seen him shooting Richard in the head.
45. I mean,
Were you shot in the head?
yeah.
He shot me in my left hand because I had my ID out like this.
Were you shot more than that one time?
Yes, sir.
How many total times were you shot, do you recall?
4.
Did you get a good look at that man's face?
Yes, sir.
Do you see him in courtroom today?
Yes, sir.
Please point to him and identify where he is.
In the end, 6 people were shot. 2 people died.
The mother of 2 of the victims, she says she and her boys were inseparable.
We 3 is like one person.
Here is where the investigation begins, and we start to have a little bit of an issue from the beginning because out of the 6 people, some ID'd Michael, some didn't ID Michael out of a photo lineup. There was an informant, and that informant told police that word on the street was the ice cream man did the shooting. They include the ice cream man's photo in this lineup. Some people pick him out, some people don't. Then there's this group chat within the survivors, and one of the people includes another picture of Mike that wasn't in the photo lineup in the group text and says, like, this is the guy who shot us. So one of the guys who didn't identify him at first goes back to police and is like, oh, actually, no, it is Michael. I didn't recognize him because of the photo. Like, this is the guy. So immediately there's this really weird thing going on with the ID. And it's like, did Michael really do it? Because there were enough IDs of Michael, police were able to search his parents' home where he lived. And it was there that they found the notebook that has his fingerprints on it. It's like a composition book. And in it, they find a name, an address, and the nickname Creep written in there. And this is all going to come to a head soon. Michael wasn't at the home when they were searching it, so now they're looking for him. Long story short, he's speeding, he gets pulled over, and they bring him in for questioning. And that is when we get the audio
Recording that was done with Michael Keetley in November of 2010.
There were 6 people shot. Okay. 2 of them have passed. Okay. And I'll be completely honest with you, Mike. He described you to a T.
That you were looking for a subject by the name of Creep, and you felt he was responsible for the shooting.
I don't know that name. I've never heard that name.
You've also asked them if they can find him and bring him to you.
I've told anybody that if they would just call it in, that there's a reward. Because nobody wants to talk, man. You know, like I said, that had to be 6 months ago. I just gave up. People that would say, "Oh, I know somebody," and then I call the detective, and then nobody would talk. Do I wish that the people that shot me would die a horrible death? Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't me, and it wasn't the man. It just wasn't. I'm just telling you flat out.
The police believe that Michael chose a pump-action shotgun because that was a movement that he could do with his left hand, that it was easier for him to do.
Man, what did I do? Hobble over there and freaking shoot him left-handed?
No.
You know, come on.
You were able to get a weapon that you can pump with your hand because you wanted an easier weapon to use because you couldn't use a typical weapon because of your injuries. So you got yourself a pump action. And you've told people that, Mike.
No.
Michael is then arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder and 4 counts of attempted murder.
Michael Keetley.
With a noticeable limp, Michael Keetley hobbled towards the microphone.
You are facing life in prison, like the state says, at best.
Never looked up as lawyers discussed his case.
Early this morning, shortly after midnight, we were able to arrest Keetley. He had been under our surveillance. 6 of them were shot. 2 of them, one of them was died at the scene. One of them died a few minutes later at the hospital. There was a 7th person who was there, and the only reason we believe that he was not shot is because one of the other victims, after being shot multiple times, fell on him. Keetley, he himself was a robbery victim. At that time, he described black males wearing hoods and a female. There's nothing that leads us to believe that any of these people were involved in his case, but somehow Keetley came to believe that someone at this residence was involved in his case. He had a shirt that was described, and we believe it may have said sheriff, like a generic shirt. It could have been a vest, but the one person he was asking for was someone by the name of Creeper. There is a person who lives just about 2 houses down, and his nickname is Creep. We believe that he was looking for him. We believe he went to the wrong residence, and he had bad intelligence where this guy was. He felt that this guy he was looking for was one of those people, and in fact, he was not. We have a bullet from his house tied to this scene. He has talked to detectives, but he has not cooperated in the case. No. We're still looking for the weapons. We have recovered pieces of weapons. We're still looking for that shirt or that vest and that weapon. What we have found is he had 2 bulletproof vests at his house, and he had a pair of handcuffs.
When they were talking to Michael, why did I say it like that? Michael, he was saying that he wants to shake the hand of whoever did this, and even if these people weren't responsible, that he thinks they're probably gangsters anyway, so like, who cares?
Those people, you know what, I'll shake that guy's hand that did that. Now, whether they were involved or not, you know what, most of them are freaking gangbangers over there on the street anyway.
And he was wrong, because they were not gangsters. Not only were these people not involved in what happened to Michael, but they didn't have a criminal record. They were innocent people hanging out on Thanksgiving. Then, and this is where it starts to be a little bit weird. When Michael was attacked, he told the police that the attackers were black.
The description that he gave back in January, his case, were black males that were involved.
Okay, and all of the people he shot were Hispanic.
These were Hispanic males involved in this case that are victims of this case. How he came to focus on Creeper that he was asking for, and his actual nickname is Creep, not Creeper, but how he came to focus on him, we don't know.
So that's a little bit weird. And then he was set up by 3 people. Well, the woman set him up, and then 2 guys shot him up.
How many people were involved with your shooting? There were 2 guys and a girl.
But he shot 6 people. So 3 people are responsible for your attack. You're shooting 6. You know for a fact 3 people were not involved. What are you doing? It was later revealed that after this incident, Michael took his van to get it repainted.
He wanted me to tone a van for him.
Did you agree to do that?
Yes.
You are the one that painted it the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Despite all this, Michael maintained his innocence. He pled not guilty. This begins the insanely long case of Michael Keetley. There were issues with the death penalty because they gave him the death penalty. So it was like all kind of legal stuff with that. Then his lawyer got in a car accident and had brain damage and felt like he couldn't represent him. Then it was another one. It was like all these delays, and it was year after year after year. And then he didn't have bail. And then in 2018, 8 years after, they finally gave him bail, but he couldn't post the bond because his parents, they spent $200,000, which was their entire life savings, to get him a defense lawyer. And his case is still open. His next one, I think his trial is in June of this year. So we'll see what happens with that. But let's now talk about the mistrial and what happened with that. This trial happened February 2020. As you remember, I'm sure we all will remember for a long time, that in February 2020, the pandemic le freak se chic. The jury is comprised of 9 men and 3 women. The trial began with witnesses testifying.
Brianne Gregory recalls a conversation with Keetley.
He had asked me if I knew somebody named Creeper because he thought he had to do with the robbery.
Witness testimony, particularly the survivors of the shooting, and that's when the whole identification issues come into play, and the defense really capitalizes on that. Then the next thing that comes into play is the whole can he shoot? You have his doctor brought in to testify.
Mr. Keetley able to extend his right hand fingers?
No.
Was he able to extend his right thumb?
No.
Would he have been able to actively extend his fingers?
No.
But then on cross-examination, the prosecution gets the doctor to admit that, well, he could have trained his left hand to shoot. And so although the right wasn't working, the left could have worked enough to do what he's accused of doing. And so that becomes an issue. Then the prosecution gets upset because when Michael lifts his hand up, like he lifts it up a little bit weird.
All right, Mr. Keetley, I need to swear you in, sir, so if you'll raise your right hand, please.
Did you see when he had to raise his right hand and it was kind of like this?
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yeah. All right, sir, you put your hand down.
And the prosecution is like, he's faking. And then that becomes a whole issue. Like, what can his hand really do? They're trying to ask these witnesses, which hand was he holding the rifle? And that was very unclear.
Even when they did talk about the hand that the gunman was using to hold the firearm, some of the witnesses were confronted with prior inconsistent statements that they made in depositions. So that's a bit of a wash.
Michael doesn't testify.
Have you made a decision?
Yes, I have.
What is that decision?
I'm not going to testify.
And so the last thing that was left was the ballistics.
The casings are crucial evidence because investigators never found the murder weapon.
It was fired in the same firearm as the other 10.
Projectiles and casings from the crime scene, matching projectiles and casings from the Keetley property.
And there was an issue with the ballistics too. I'm editing the video now and I just realized I forgot to say something. The bullet casings were ejected from a Glock handgun, but the bullets were not fired from a Glock barrel. And this is easily done with modification kits. So you could modify the gun and it'll still be from the same gun even though the barrels are different. The prosecutor said, quote, "I anticipate you'll hear from the defense that tells you the ballistics assessment is wrong. It doesn't make sense. It absolutely makes sense. It's very easy to swap out the barrel." He also said that the casings and bullets found at the shooting scene matched the ballistics of rounds found on Michael's property. So I just wanted to clarify that regarding the ballistics, and back to the video. But the defense was like, oh, no, it doesn't match. It's not a match. He didn't do it. He can't shoot. The gun doesn't match. They don't even know if it's him. And so then it came time for closing arguments, and we had some drama there because the prosecution came out first and they did their whole speech, closing arguments, and then they ended by saying, we have more to say, but we're going to say it in the rebuttal. And then the defense attorney, she was totally prepared to do closing arguments, but then Michael was like, don't do them.
In an unusual twist, Keetley waived his right to a closing argument.
Your Honor, Mr. Keetley is going to waive closing argument. He knows that I am completely prepared to do this closing argument, and he has instructed me not to.
All right. Mr. Keetley, I have to first discuss that decision with you.
That is my decision. Yes, sir.
No one has forced you or threatened you in any way to make this decision?
Not at all.
Are you satisfied with the services of your attorneys up until this time?
Absolutely.
All right.
The strategy of that was actually pretty smart, because by not doing closing arguments, they denied the state the ability to say what they were going to say in the rebuttal. So the state had an incomplete closing argument. And I guess Michael felt it was better to do that than to actually have their closing argument. So they did that. It was time for the jury to deliberate. After 7 hours, over 2 days, the jury came back and they were like, we're having a hard time. Like, what do we do if we can't figure it out? The judge read them something known as the Allen charge. He basically was like, keep trying. They did. They come back. They're like, listen, we're hopelessly deadlocked.
The jury has not reached a unanimous verdict, period. The jury is hung, period. This is not going to change, period. Ladies and gentlemen, I am declaring a mistrial in the case.
For Michael Keetley, no verdict. For the victims, no justice.
After the victim's mother waited and waited 10 agonizing years.
The whole thing was really frustrating for everyone, right? This case has already dragged on for a decade. You've got the families of the victims who are they just want to have some closure, get some justice, and move on.
The people who were directly impacted, they were upset. You know, I mean, they've been waiting a long time, 10 years.
Now they're going to have to relive the whole thing again with another trial. Then you have Michael himself. He's been in jail for a decade awaiting trial. Now he has to go through the whole thing again. His poor parents who spent their life savings to get these defense attorneys, that was basically useless. They're going to have to start over from scratch. How are they going to pay for that? So now he needs a public defender. And so we start to have even more delays. Already the pandemic, Le Freak, the Chic, came in and ruined everything. So that took forever. Then they would bring in a new public defender who was like, I need more time, like, you know. And then Michael did a hunger strike because he really wanted a piece of fruit.
For the second time, there has been a mix-up at the jail, and defendant Michael Keetley has been a no-show for his Zoom hearings.
We've all been waiting for you. It is not your fault, though.
Judge Christopher Sabella is not happy about it.
It's unacceptable.
Been on a hunger strike for the last month and a half. So when they go down there, they tell them, oh, hey, you know, we didn't know about it. I'm just trying to get a piece of fruit. I've been out here for over 5 years. Haven't had a piece of fruit. So they don't want to give me a piece of fruit with my lunch. And I'm just trying to get some dental work done.
I will speak to the sheriff or the colonel at the jail if I have to.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I'll ask them about your fruit, too, but I can't promise you anything.
No, but dental work would be nice.
I can't make those promises either.
At one of the hearings, the judge was like hinting, telling them, you know, you might want to work out a plea deal. We had a mistrial. We're going to go through all this again. We might have a mistrial again. Michael is not willing to take a plea deal. He wants to do this again. He waived his right for a speedy trial again. So I don't know, is he enjoying just staying in jail, avoiding prison for as long as possible? I don't know. As of me filming this, the trial is set for June 2022. Those are the facts. Now, let's talk about the theories. So there are two main theories, and then those break into other ones. So there's he did it, he didn't do it, right? So let's start with he didn't do it. There are quite a few things that may suggest that in terms of physical things, such as his hand Could he have actually pumped the shotgun that many times and shot that many times? I was watching something on Court TV about it, and one of the reporters, she said that during the trial, he would use his left hand to grab, documents, to read along, to move things, to put on the headphone. And so she felt like he was pretty capable with the left hand. Now, when he was in trial, it was like 10 years after. So he had a long time to heal. But when this took place, it was 10 months after his attack. So could he have healed enough in 10 months to use the shotgun in that manner? That's the real question here. Now, the next thing is obviously the witness identifications. You've got some people who were there who did not identify him out of a lineup. Why? Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was a rogue cop that was doing some crazy shit. But then the whole creep thing comes into play. He was asking for creep. Everyone said he was asking for creep. They went to his house on his laptop. He was searching creep. Also on his laptop, he's searching Ocean Mist Court. That's where the shooting happened. So these are the things that start to say, well, maybe he could have done it with his hand. Maybe these guys were confused. They didn't see who exactly it was. Because why else would you search for creep? What a coincidence it would be, right? That you searched for creep and this address hundreds of times, and someone else shows up to shoot them in a same van that you happen to own, that you painted a different color shortly after. I don't know, man. It seems like it. Then don't forget the audio recording of him being like, I want to shake the guy who did it. They were probably gangsters. He didn't have much sympathy for them. Almost like he did it. Although the murder weapon has never been found. But then there's the whole ballistics, right? Yes, you could have modified a gun. People do it all the time. So just because there was some different markings about the barrel doesn't mean it wasn't him and his gun. The thing that really throws me off is the fact that he said the people who did it were black, but then the people he shoots up are Hispanic. And this is the thing that was throwing me for a loop. I'm like, why would he go after the... And then I found an article, and that article said that the people, the assailants who attacked Michael, were masked. Then I started thinking, maybe at first he thought they were black, but then he wasn't sure. And so when something in his research led him to creep, who was Hispanic, maybe he rationalized it in his mind, well, oh, maybe I was wrong. Maybe they weren't actually black. Maybe they were these guys. I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to rationalize it, but that's the only thing I could think of. And so it's where did he get the information that creep did it? That's what I was thinking. I'm like, because they asked the police, and in the press conference, the sheriff didn't know why. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, nobody in the community was talking. Then he started offering that reward, $1,500. Did someone give him bad info to maybe get that money? Maybe they had something against creep. They wanted to say creep did it. I don't know. The whole thing is strange. I would love to know, what do you guys think? Do you believe in vigilante justice? And in my opinion, I feel like this is an example of when vigilante justice goes wrong, because you don't have the resources the police have. You had bad intel. You went and shot up a bunch of innocent people. Even if I was on your side, for example, if he shot the person who actually shot him, I might be on his side. Just saying. According to police, he shot up the wrong people. That, I think, is the deal breaker for me. Because I don't want to say I believe in vigilante justice, but it's a case-by-case basis. If I see that you got attacked by someone and nobody caught this person, they're out there going around, maybe they're going to do the same thing to someone else, and you feel like you know who it is and you can do something about it. The cops ain't doing shit. I'm going to do something about it. Maybe I'll be like, I didn't see anything. If you don't know what you're doing and you're going around shooting the wrong people, no, I'm sorry, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. Let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to SCENTBIRD for sponsoring this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.